Well, good afternoon, everyone. Yep. It's weird. Yeah. All right. In any case, we'll try to keep it very active because, it's the last talk of the day after a very long week, and I'm sure all of you guys looking forward to head back home or do something more fun than listening to a networking session. So my name is Amir Elbaz. I'm the CEO and founder of BE Network. We are a software orchestration platform focusing on Ethernet fabrics. And with me, I have...
Hi, I'm Brijesh. I'm from Rakuten. And basically, Rakuten is a group of companies. I'm here from a telco division. We are going to talk about the open networking that we have done a small proof of concept.
Yeah, the clicker doesn't work. I didn't realize that, it's the clicker is with your system, but well, yeah, we will manage, don't worry. So what I want to talk about today, what we are talking about, is the journey of open networking. And like everything in life, it needs to start with a step. A lot of times we kind of are facing of some major task and we don't know how to start. Well, let's start with one small step. So what we're here to talk about is actually the journey of open networking for the Rakuten Mobile company. And with that, Brijesh will tell you a little bit about Rakuten.
Yeah, So I'll start with just introducing the Rakuten group. So Rakuten, basically, it's a Japanese company. It's more famous in Japan, but it's a global company, headquartered in Tokyo. And basically, if you see here, we are almost in 70 segments. And fintech, e-commerce, you name it, retail, and telco, and communication. And other than that, we're media and content. We're heavily present in Japan and also outside. I'm here to talk about more about the telco business, about Rakuten Mobile and Rakuten Symphony. That we started journey in 2018. Before that, actually, in this segment, Rakuten was already there in fixed network and as an MVNO company, but they started to enter in telco as an MNO. And in 2018, the vision of entering into that is one thing is that it's a digital access, and we are into many segments, and giving the connectivity to the users, it will give more value to the company as well as to the users, basically to better communicate with other businesses. And the idea was that when we enter, that point of time we had a lot of technological advancement by the time. We have a very matured cloud. We have Open RAN, it was just starting. So we started by utilizing that point of time, whatever the technology available. We said that we want to enter into the market as soon as we can with a least investment. That was the idea, and that's where we decided to take this. Although it was daring because there was no reference in the market, and we as an entrant, it was difficult actually to trust on that. But we taken the challenge, and we did enormous quality testing. We set up our own lab. We put a lot of investment in the lab, and we make sure that before going to production, we make it a working model. So we went as an end-to-end cloud native, from the RAN to the core, OSS, BSS, everything. And we made a policy that we will not have a single application on bare metal. We'll go complete cloud. There were exceptions, one or two, but almost I can say 99% it was end-to-end cloud. So if you see here in the journey, 2018 we have started, we got the spectrum. By 19 we had the network ready, and we went for a trial launch in 2019. And then by 2020 we went commercial live. In 2020, since then it's become a lot of acquisition we did in the between. And the acquisition, the reason behind that, we wanted to have self-reliance, depend on us, because OSS integrating with cloud native application, having an OSS, there were a lot of challenges. So Rakuten acquired a company in Hawaii that is an Indian-based company. And later on in 2021, we also actually started a global company, Rakuten Symphony, to focus on the global business. So our chairman has a lot of vision, a lot of expectation in this communication industry. And by the time, if I go quickly and you see, by the time this year we added around 10 million of subscribers with a very good KPIs that is actually by externally evaluator that is recognized in the market, and customer experience as well as 4G, 5G speed, we were actually on the top, one of the top. That gives us, gives us an encouragement and gives us a motivation to go beyond this. Okay, so now at this point of time, we are going through a lot of transformation. We are going from OpenStack to complete end-to-end cloud on Kubernetes base. We have our own cloud platform. At the same time, we thought of, during the transformation, infra transformation, we thought of, why not check on the open networking, how it could help to become infra efficient in the data centers, and also a flexible way we can actually grow on that. That's where we decided to do a POC, because it is very important that before you take that into production, you make sure that's a working model and you can trust upon it, because telco is a high transacting network, and it is very important that it's high available, there is no single incident we see. So that's where we did a POC that we'll talk about more into detail. But before, let's actually go through some advantage and disadvantage and comparison of open networking.
Yeah. So thank you, Brijesh. And Brijesh was telling you about the migration that they did in the application, and the disaggregation on the compute. But open networking still is in the core of what this organization is standing for. So it's standing for two things, right? Mainly innovation, collaboration, right? So innovation coming to the collaboration organization. And the second thing is the disaggregation. So everybody will do something really, really good, and we all contribute together, and we all get the really, really good from that. So if you look at a traditional networking stack, you have the NOS, the network operating system, and the hardware fully integrated with a very specific automation tool. But when you look at the concept of OCP, and we are a member for many, many years, it's all about how can we get the best of breed. And I get into, as I drive deeper. So you talk about using a common hardware that the OCP is publishing, and then you run it, the NOS. That it seems to me that SONiC has become, even though there's other projects like Dent, and others in the NOS, and there are some other companies talking that they have SR Linux or something like that, but SONiC is becoming the de facto NOS for a community. So if you look at the monolithic disadvantages, one of the things that people are trying to stay away, definitely this crowd, the OCP, is avoid vendor lock-in. I always want to get options, and the options give you benefits. One of the benefits is reduce your cost. So a lot of organizations today are technology organizations that they have to do more with less. In Rakuten's case, they have more and more subscribers. Each subscriber's bandwidth is growing. How can I provide all this need with less budget, because there's pressure on the operation. The other thing is that you have a vendor-controlled technology. A lot of the times, it's not as dynamic as you want. And in supply chain challenges. After COVID, it came that one of the largest suppliers in the market, OEMs, could not deliver product. So here comes open networking, where basically it's almost a mirror image of those challenges. It gives you all these benefits. You have a vendor selection. You can choose. You can reduce your costs. You can accelerate hardware and software innovations. You guys all walked around in the hall, and you saw some of the things that are switches that are mind-boggling. When I started this a few years back, I would never imagine that only a number of years I'm going to have 1.6 terabit ports with crazy features, dynamic load balancing, all those. So look at all this innovation. It's here only because there's a village that's coming together and contribute to those. So again, You have common standard hardware, SONiC on top of it, and ecosystem partners like ourselves that come then with the automation platform, right? You don't have the OEM that develop, their very specific automation platform. You have automation platform that can work with multiple solutions. And if you just, for next year, Gartner predicts almost $5 billion for this open networking. I know $5 billion is not a lot for what George was saying. It's going to be almost $300 billion by 2029. But again, $5 billion is a big market.
Yeah, okay. So yeah, I think you have captured, that was another reasons. But I just want to tell you before, the key reason, cost was one thing, okay? Time was another thing, because we are expanding, subscriber growth is going on, and we have to add more and more site. And in Japan, the challenge we have with the space and the power. Power is the number one, I can say. So we wanted to be efficient. That is another reason. Like it's almost in the same space. We want to add a double or triple or 4 times capacity. And also we have to watch out about the power requirement. Because if there is no power, there is no meaning of adding those. So this was the reason, and I think another reason important I can say, the flexibility we wanted. We wanted to go to the market, we get enough number of suppliers who have best breed already validated, have a big reference in the network. Those were the reason actually we wanted to actually validate and be actually in this market so that, okay, we can say that it's validated and we can pick it up. That was the reason. And our approach was very, very baby steps. So first thing, if you see in the left side, in this POC, we did actually 3 POC. In this POC, we went very simple. We took manual step, downloaded the Open Networking OS, and we installed, manually created a small network. And in this POC, we did very simple, just hardware testing, port testing to ensure that the throughput, it is designed, it is supporting. We have done L2, L3, some resiliency test cases. Other than that, when we move to another POC, that where we want to do manual way and check telemetry and observability KPIs, and also that whether we get a clear view of the topology of the network we have and how they are performing. That is very important actually when you centrally control and the number of deployments is too high. So in the second step, we did with Verity from the Behind Edge. We actually in the first and second, the switcher router we have used here is from EdgeCore, and from SONiC is the NOS, okay? And here additionally what we have validated is a zero touch provisioning, and also we isolated a faulty switch automatically without going and logging to the switch, okay? These all are the things we have done in the second phase of that. Why we went to third phase? Almost we covered in the second phase. Third phase is kind of pre-production, because no meaning if you just do without having some production. It's a kind of pre-production setup. And here we did a little change. Since white box suppliers are many, we wanted to have at least 2 white box suppliers. So EdgeCore we did already. Here we actually picked up from Dell, okay? And then we repeated the same sequence. Additionally, here the test cases we pick is almost the same use cases what we are having in our network. So that was also third step, and so far I can say the results we are having is satisfactory, but still it's too early to say that we are ready to adopt this. There are a lot of other challenges, actually operational, day 2, many other challenges we will have to work and ensure that it's all in place, or maybe day 2 operation is one other challenge actually. We want to ensure that there will not be too many interfaces when I'm going to open networking. I have NOS from SONiC, I have Beyond Edge to as an orchestrator, we have white box suppliers. So something will work out that we have a minimum interface who can day-to-day operation, who can manage. That is the challenge we will work, and then actually we'll see how it goes from here. So on the cost benefit analysis, at least I can say on the cost, other benefits, time actually that I wanted to mention. So we deployed this, if I see the pre-production one, almost 1 hour it took. This is the real number I'm telling you. team reported that underlay and overlay, it was 1 hour to set up this network. And if I compare with the investment on the hardware and software licenses compared to open networking, it's around 50%, okay? And that is in line with the market research is saying about open networking, that you could save around 50%. So I can say that we are into the same line, and going forward, that is the only challenge that I'm going to talk a little bit more, what challenges we see after this. So operation is the one challenge that honestly I need to actually work with the suppliers and with other vendors, that how we are going to manage it with a minimum interface, and we have not bothered about white box, what kind of firmware release they are having, or NOS releases, how to manage those releases. These are the things we have to manage. And also, the KPIs, we still not having real production KPI. So that maybe we are planning to think of a small data center into production, and with the help of Dell, Broadcom, try to actually deploy it and see it, we are getting at least the better KPIs and no other challenges before we fully adopt it. That is the one challenge actually I see we need to address that. Other than that, telco references, I got to know some references when I visited here, met a lot of people, but I have to check more on that. What are because telco transaction and IT transaction are totally different. In telco, at least control plane, I can see the requirement is reliability. You have to it's a reliable communication. Even a single flicker is going to cost us. That is the important thing. And in the control plane, we need a low latency communication without a packet drop. So these are the things actually still we want to check, and then we decide to go ahead. So far, I can say that from the community, and we are confident from this POC, and also after meeting a lot of people, we feel confident. I hope that by next year, we will have some production use cases.
And Brijesh, when you are a carrier, the quality is not about how much money can I optimize for my GPU. You actually answer to the government. So if you have, quality problems, you have a bigger issues, then I'm not optimizing the cost of my my GPU. So I know, AI and everything was a big thing here at OCP this year. But if we bring open networking to the different use cases in the industry, they have different challenges. That's why what Brijesh is saying. There's a little process I need to go in order to guarantee, because if not, it's not me answering to the CFO, how many pennies per token, but it's I have to answer the government.
Yeah. So that I think this I talked already. This is our roadmap. What we are going to next do. So, yeah, over to you.
Yeah. So it's not all roses, right? I mean, there are challenges, and Brijesh touched on that. But but what we see. I think, and I'll go over them, but it's like the pros outweighs the cons, all right? So if you go with, traditional networking, most of those products are mature. They have a proven support, right? I mean, Brijesh was saying, I have a problem, who do I call? I know that. I've been working with this incumbent for a decade. Everything, I know what to do, who to go to. And they have proven hardware and software stability. Not perfect, by the way. They also have, challenges where their devices, RMAs. I went to a very large car manufacturer in the United States, and they are moving to open networking, and I asked them why. He said, well, with open networking, I've been running some networks, and we had one RMA in a few years, and here's my big palette with all these devices I need to RMA to my traditional. So if you look at the cons of incumbents, that's expensive. Licensing software is becoming more and more key of their earnings per share, and it's always, you cut the deal, the next day you get an increase in price. Vendor lock-in for many reasons is not good. I think we established that, and limited innovation. So if you look at the ASIC, which was the heart of the networking gear, if you look at where most innovation is happening, is actually by two main, companies, but they're, one is making all switches, the other one is just making the hearts, and they're really, really good. They're adopting or doubling their speed. You all heard Ram Valega from Broadcom talking about the speed of innovation. Other incumbents are, having some challenges catching up. On open networking, Brijesh talks about, huge improvement of TCO. It's like somebody once told me, if you need to make a revolution in the market, you need to have an improvement of 25%. That is more than double that threshold of revolution in the market. No vendor lock-in. So Brijesh is, they're building operation, how to deal with open networking. We have a little bit long time. All right, so I'll quickly, innovation, support of new technology, Rocky, but we have the challenges this. I'll finish and say that we all here in a role of stakeholders for your organizations. And as a stakeholder, whether you're in development, in finance, analyst, or for your company, you need to cut your company to do better. And better is not just a function of money. Better is also a function of business resiliency. If you have choices, your business is more resilient for impact. Whether geopolitical risk, whether it's like a vendor-specific risk, your business cannot have a single foundation. You need to have multiple ways that you can rely. So business resiliency. Second reason to go open networking is business agility. Technology is a competitive advantage. If your competitor adopts technology before you, you're in a disadvantage. If you're not running as fast as you're going to be left behind. So you want to move as fast as possible. And as fast as possible is obviously adopting new technologies that can give you or at least maintain competitiveness. And last but not least, better business. Competition makes us all honest. I talked to a very large carrier and say, you guys killed 4 or 5 companies because you always went to a single vendor. What he did, that vendor did not get better because they did not have competition. Hence, look where Lucent is, where Alcatel is, all these big companies that 2 decades ago were ruling the world, they are gone because that specific carrier, had a, vendor lock-in and they didn't care much. So better business is, openness is making everybody's business better. So thank you for the opportunity for OCP to present that. Yeah. Thank you, Brijesh.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're at the end of the session today. Thanks a lot for the presenters and all the attendees for coming. And as always, we encourage you to continue to collaborate with OCP Networking every second Monday of every month. So please join the calls. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.